Hello and welcome to Pearced Off, the philosophy and skeptical segment of the Skepticule Podcast. My name is Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This week I'm going to talk about whether religion can be destroyed. I find this a really fascinating topic, and basically, even if the evidence overwhelmingly ruled in favour of the disbelief in a personal God, and we can argue actually that that's the case already, would religion still tenuously hang on to the threads of desperate hope or ritualistic comforts that humanity seems to endure? So firstly, we must accept that, even given today's scientific climate, religion seems to thrive. It does so not only despite our knowledge-laden and critical climate, but in spite of it. There seems to be, as I've talked about elsewhere, a concerted effort by the religious hard right to undermine science, disbelieve science, deny science, or willfully ignore it by burying their heads in the sand. This means that the core belief one has, the overriding and the most powerful belief held by a great many people, is the belief in God. This seems to base itself in the core of our being, sitting in an impregnable fortress in the centre of our brains and minds, unable to be assailed by the most valiant of scientific and skeptical ideas. But is this fortress really impregnable? It has survived thus far, and in some areas of the world it's growing. Evangelical Christianity grows in the Far East, whilst Islam grows elsewhere. That said, in more mature democracies where information is free and education is better, secular proportions of society are growing. Assuming that this trend continues, and assuming that politically we do not regress, then one must hope that eventually such secular world views will become the norm, especially in the intellectual communities. Now, memetically speaking, where a meme is a sort of unit of idea, of concept, which follows a sort of Darwinian evolutionary principle such that the survival of the fittest takes place. In other words, the ideas which are best adapted to any given environment survive and propagate. So, memetically speaking, religions have their fail-safes. Memes with the highest value, as it were, survive. The value does not have to be true. In fact, an idea need only appeal to a very small community to endure. For example, as Susan Blackmore has exemplified, folding the end of a piece of toilet roll into a corner for display in hotel room toilets is a meme which endures because it is valued by hotel staff who see it as a value to the customer. Religions as networks of memes, or memeplexes, provide many areas of value to adherents of such a religion. Adherents are by default members of an in-group, and this is wholly important in psychology. This offers comfort, safety in numbers, and all the benefits which go along with being a member of any close-knit community. Moreover, other memes within religion are far stronger. The idea that not adhering to that religion will lead to eternal punishment, in other words, the worst possible consequence conceivable, means that there is a mechanism in place that will almost certainly ensure a survival of the idea. Such emotional blackmail really is powerful stuff and can be seen in such famous arguments as Pascal's wager. Other than such negative mechanisms, there is also the positive offering of heaven, of having your sins atoned, of being loved by God eternally, and so on. Furthermore, religion offers an ultimate purpose, a sort of purpose that atheism simply can't offer by definition. I've discussed purpose in other essays and other places online, and there are lots of issues that go along with purposing. Nevertheless, if you are one who sought a purpose imposed externally, even though I'd not recognise this as a purpose for an individual, then religion is for you. So you have these memetic fail-safes in place, the greatest conceivable punishment of hell, or the greatest conceivable reward of heaven. It just doesn't get more powerful than that, conceptually speaking. So all this and more means that religions have techniques which foil any attempt to undo them by offering incredibly comforting or threatening addenda to one's life, albeit false ones. In other words, atheism is a tough sell. Truth ain't necessarily comfortable. And without a QED piece of evidence, and without high levels of education for everyone in the world, and if religion couldn't be used as a tool to manipulate and control others by unscrupulous people or organisations, then truth would have a far better chance of winning outright. It could, but I doubt it will for a very long time yet. And the question is, could it ever? What I would like to know is there a piece of evidence that would QED prove that God did not exist? But sadly, I think that any theist could posit an entirely ad hoc and contrived reason as to why any piece of evidence might either be false or might be explicable in the context of a god or demon figure planting false evidence. So if you think about evolution, how that's been dealt with by many religious people, Satan is literally planting fossils as false evidence. And if a fool really wants to believe in something, then the fool will always find ways to make that belief work for them. So there's a couple of ways that you can take this. Basically, the main question is not looking at the benefits or negatives of religion, but theoretically, could religion disappear off the face of the earth? Does humanity have the propensity to be able to destroy the religion and the ideas that go along with it, or is it so psychologically ingrained in our psyche, in our beings, that we just couldn't rid ourselves of the memeplex of religion? So that's the first way of looking at this idea. The second is that I suppose you can start talking about whether actually religion is a bad thing. Actually, are there massive benefits to religion which overcome all those negative ideas, the ideas of maybe religious violence, that the higher the religiosity, the higher the levels of religiously inspired violence or violence in general, as can be seen by a lot of data that has been collected. But are there many good points to religion which outdo that? So there's lots of ways you can look at this, but I would be interested to see what the Pauls have to say about whether religion can be destroyed, and then, of course, whether it should be destroyed. As ever, question everything. Drop by my blog, as I blog as a tippling philosopher. Until next time.